What's going on, my rebel winners? This is the XRP scum here, and it's been a minute since I've made a video, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk openly, and this is just going to be a little bit of a recap for everything that's been happening, everything that's currently on my mind, and I just want to get out the message out there, okay? So this video can be for the people who are just now jumping in and catching up to speed on the news and everything else, or maybe you don't know anything at all about crypto, maybe you don't know anything at all about XRP. So let's start at the beginning. Ripple is a fintech company, and they are the ones largely responsible for the distribution of a cryptocurrency called XRP. And XRP is, on the opinionated side of my thoughts, is far superior than any other crypto. Even Bitcoin. Bitcoin was always there to start everything, to get everybody talking about cryptocurrencies. And when you turn on the news, you might only see people recommending Bitcoin. Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. Well, I got news for you. Bitcoin is pretty much already exhausted all of its percent gains. And if you really think about it, Bitcoin, in my opinion, it's already at a really high value. It's at $110,000, right? And that gets a lot of people. That gets a lot of people interested in croaking, you know? So here's the thing. XRP is only at $2.25 at the time of this recording. It might be fluctuating between $2.25 and $2.30, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Who cares, right? XRP is designed to facilitate cross-border payments worldwide, because if you examine the issues right now, the issues are this: cross-border payments are a nightmare in today's modern payment rails. So what do? They come up with a solution. Well, Bitcoin can't do the job because, let's just be real here, it's built on a little thing called the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is not nearly as effective, it's not nearly as fast, and the fees are, quite frankly, way too high. So everything that is done on the XRP ledger, it is fractions of a fraction of a penny, and it settles in 3 to 5 seconds. Pretty much instantaneous. So we've seen it. You just do your own research. How long does it take for transactions to happen on the Lightning Network, or aka Bitcoin? However you want to Google that, that gives you the information right there. So let's go over things. So why isn't XRP at a really, really high value if it's so great, right? Well, here's the thing. The SEC in 2020, December of 2020, Ripple was slapped with what they call a Wells notice. And what a Wells notice is just a way for the SEC to inform somebody that you are about to get sued. So what happened? Well, they ended up getting sued. Why did they get sued? Let's go over that. The reason that they got sued by the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, which is a 3-letter government organization, just for clarity there. The reason why that happened is because they were making the allegations that Ripple was selling XRP to institutions and big banks directly from Ripple and not on the exchanges and everything. So since then, we've had a lot of progress, and basically, if you want my opinionated side of all of that, I think that it was all just a trial for XRP to prove that it is capable to do what they want it to do. I don't see them really taking much long on any other lawsuits. Yeah, sure, there was a few of them, but those got settled pretty quickly, and those were not really too well-known cryptos. Like, for example, Library. That was another one of them. But the thing is, there was also the SEC just going out and trying to basically regulate by authority. And they were trying to get their claws sunken in to unregulated asset class so that they have jurisdiction in that area. Well, what we're seeing is that it didn't really work out in their favor. What we have seen from the lawsuit so far is now we have had a ironclad court decision by a federal judge that says, and the ruling still stands, is that XRP in and of itself is not a security. Thank God, that's for the retail side. But the thing is, the big banks and institutions now have to follow different rules and acquire XRP in a different way. So what are they going to do? Well, they can buy it off of the the secondary markets, off the exchanges. So what's going to happen when that happens? Well, why would that happen? For one, let's go over why that would happen. Because if you actually start looking into things, you'll see that all signs point to they want the XRP. The big banks and institutions definitely do. Otherwise, why would they have gotten sued for acquiring it in a unlawful way to begin with? You wouldn't be hearing that with almost any other cryptocurrency. Maybe there's a handful of them out there, but the thing is, they wouldn't even be in that situation if it wasn't for the objective fact that big banks and institutions definitely do want XRP. And I do know for a fact, I've read an article, and I read a couple other articles. I've been reading articles for 4 years. But there was a couple of them that I have found that have the statistical evidence that supports the idea that the big banks and institutions, they were testing XRP, and they found out that they indeed want to use Ripple's technology, which is XRP. So what do? Well, they can't do anything because they're tied up into a lawsuit. And then there was the injunction. The injunction was placed by the judge stating that the sales of XRP cannot be done the same way that it was before. There was, ever since the new commission, or the SEC commission, all the team members, we had a new SEC now. All of this was happening under the Biden's SEC. And I'm not trying to get political. We are dealing with 3-letter government organizations here. So that's just the facts. So the other thing on the other side is we've had, can't lift the injunction, right? So that's already done. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We still will consider that a win under the notion that the judge ruled that XRP in and of itself is not a security, so we move on from that, okay? So what happens now? How are the big banks and institutions, if you look at it, and all the rules and regulations are slowly starting to be rolled out, and what's happening and what we're seeing is that if you compare the regulations that are proposed, and if you look it through the Genius Act, it's got Ripple's name written all over it. I would encourage all of you guys to look into RLUSD, which is a stable coin. So the Genius Act is more about stable tokens and stuff. There's going to be more regulations to come. I believe my heavy speculation here is that a lot of it's going to complement XRP, and there's a good reason for that. See, we do know Brad Garlinghouse. He's the CEO of Ripple, and he was pretty much right on the front lines of the inauguration for Trump, and he's pretty much been pretty close with Trump ever since then. So he was part of the crypto summit with Michael Saylor, which was a little, I guess it's not really that weird because if I'm being totally truthful with you, I do feel like Bitcoin will play some sort of a role in the new financial system. It's just not going to be the only one, and I don't think it's going to be what most Bitcoin maxis think it's going to be. So, going forward, I think that XRP will end up being the main liquidity for cross-border payments. I believe that XRP will be making micropayments. I believe that XRP is going to enhance the payment rails worldwide and partner up with Swift. I don't know that if it will replace Swift altogether, but anything can happen. Some people say that XRP is going to replace Swift or RippleNet, have you? And a lot of people might say, oh, well, that's just RippleNet. If you look at some of my other videos, I explained to you how RippleNet and FedNow indeed use XRP when we concern the on-demand liquidity. That's just an objective truth. And every transaction done on the XRP ledger utilizes XRP. It's just another objective truth. But don't take my word for it. I want you all to do your own research, okay? So now that I've caught you all up to speed here, this is like, you guys are really amazing if you're still with us. That means that you guys really want to learn this shit. So here I am, okay? So if we chop all that up, you know, I've informed you guys all in this same video, so now I can go to what the updated news is. The updated news is that we have Ripple, when they did their cross appeal, not almost I want to say a year ago. I can't really remember exactly. It's just at least several months ago. So the SEC appealed the judge's decision. So then that got caught up in litigation, and then Ripple comes in and says, okay, I'm going to do the cross appeal myself. But it was a cross appeal for a whole different thing. The point is, it's just been a delay factor after delay factor. It's been going on for a while, right? So what we had just a few days ago, Ripple has decided to drop their cross appeal. That's actually a pretty big deal. If it was all basically in Ripple's court anyway, which a lot of people heavily speculate that it was, then they went ahead and dropped their cross appeal. So then what happens? Well, now we're just waiting for the SEC to drop their appeal, which a lot of people believe heavily with the new administration. They want it done. They've even said that they're no longer pursuing litigations with cryptocurrency companies, and they encourage companies and even the banks to interact with crypto now. They're encouraging it. So it doesn't make any sense for them to do anything that that equates to delaying any of this process. They want the ball to be rolling. It's time. I think July 3rd, which is tomorrow of this recording, by the way, they do it all the time. It's a Sunshine Act, which is what the SEC does behind closed doors. It's a Sunshine Act meeting, and they do it pretty frequently. I don't know the exact how frequently, but they discuss a lot of things like litigation and a bunch of other things. We won't really know exactly what they're going to be talking about until it's all the way over. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you're a champion. And just sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. That's all I got for you guys today. XRP Scum is out.